Hi, everyone. My name is Corey Weathers. I'm a military spouse and a licensed professional counselor and military clinical consultant that is currently stationed at Fort Hood with my family. I just wanted to say hello to so many of the families in Hawaii that are dealing with a lot of really big issues right now, and the biggest one being the toxicity in your water supply. And especially huge shout out to our military families who've been stationed in Hawaii that are dealing with such a difficult situation right now. We're thinking of you, and there's not much that we can do from a distance, but I wanted to start off by spending some time with you, and whatever I can do in the next few minutes that might encourage you or empower you. That is at least my hope and my desire, to just take a few minutes to serve you and encourage you towards the things that might be within your control that might help you and your family during a difficult time. We all know that it has been a very, very challenging time for especially our military community in the last year and a half to 2 years. We have gone through more stress and more significant stress than I think we've ever seen in a 2-decade war, depending on what you've been through and the kinds of deployments you've been through as well. But going through the natural lifestyle of the military and all the things it asks of us, all the things it asks of our family, of our kids, of us as military spouses and service members, it is a very challenging lifestyle to live. And then on top of that, we've gone through COVID and moving during COVID, navigating external family member stress as well, I'm sure. And even if you've been in Hawaii for the last 2 years, what I hear oftentimes from the duty station of Hawaii is that even though it's a beautiful place to go to, it can often feel like you feel isolated from your family members back at home. And sometimes isolated from the support and resources that were maybe more available to you when you were stateside. And so what I thought that I would do is just try to give you a few tips, a few resources, a few things that you could do to maybe navigate and bring down a little bit of the stress level that you might be experiencing in your life right now as you're waiting on reports, as you're waiting on next steps and new strategies to help you get through this time. So while we can't do things to necessarily fix the water, and maybe we can't fix the systems and the powers that be in the institutions that are trying to remedy that situation, I think on Viktor Frankl, who was a Holocaust survivor. We often quote him. He has some amazing books out. The most popular one is A Man's Search for Meaning. And one of the biggest takeaways that I think about all the time when life is crazy and there's so much uncertainty and chaos that is happening in my world, I think about the quote where he says that when it came down to surviving in such a very difficult situation where all power was stripped from him and he really didn't have power of his circumstances, he didn't have control over when he was going to eat next or how he'd be treated by the next person. Really, when he sat back and really thought about what he did have control over, he realized that the one thing that no one can take away from us is our ability to choose specifically our response. And so when times are really uncertain and things are really chaotic, that's what I return to, is remembering that I have a right and the ability to choose my response and my reaction to given circumstances. And taking that a step further, Viktor Frankl also said that one of the things that he did to survive such a very difficult time is that he would sit in his bunk at night and he would pretend or imagine that someday when he got out of those circumstances, that he was going to bring meaning to his very difficult circumstances that he was in now by teaching others how he survived. And so he envisioned himself as a professor teaching students about what he learned from the Holocaust, what he learned from the concentration camps, how he survived it and gotten through it. And that by teaching the next generation, he was going to create meaning for the very difficult time that he was in right then. And so again, when we find ourselves in really, really terrible, frustrating situations where we feel like we have no control, we can learn from Viktor Frankl and remember that we can control our reaction, but we also can find ways a little bit here and there in our day to day, but maybe more so thinking into the future of how we will get to a place where we'll be able to bring meaning to what's happening now. And sometimes what we're living through right now can feel like there's nothing good that can come out of it. And there's too many things that we're facing. But there will be a time continues to move forward. There will be a time we'll be able to look back and we'll be able to find ways to give to others out of the wisdom that comes from enduring the time that we have now. One other person that comes to my mind is Angela Duckworth, who wrote this amazing book called Grit, The Power of Perseverance. And one of the things, and I love that book because it reminds me of who our community is. We are a gritty group of people. I kind of tend to shy away from that word resilient because resilient means to bounce back. And while it's good for us to be resilient and bounce back, I really don't feel like I want to bounce back to who I was before. If I'm going through something challenging, I am hoping that I'm bouncing forward and I'm becoming a new and better version of myself. And so there's something about Angela Duckworth's Grit where she talks about the people that are the most gritty, the people that persevere and endure are not necessarily the most talented, not necessarily the smartest people in the room. It actually comes down to, can you envision a long-term goal? And do you have the ability to endure through the obstacles? Because that goal is so important to you that you are willing to work through those obstacles and reach that long-term goal. That is what makes really gritty people. And I know our community is, and I know you are too. And I know that you have lessons learned that you can call from the past that will help you endure the difficult time that you're going through now, and that the things that you're learning now are going to help you become even more gritty on the other side, where you're going to be able to mentor the next person. But instead of talking about tomorrow, I really just want to talk about what are some of the things that you can do today that can help you and your family navigate this time. So first of all, I try to tell couples that I work with when I'm working with couples on communication, because really when we're going through really stressful things, and I've heard that many of you are having physical symptoms and you're really stressed and you're worried about the long-term effects of the water and probably seeing your kids, and probably maybe some of you even like I would be hypersensitive in every sneeze and every cough and every feeling that we're having in our bodies, wondering if that's the water and are we going to have long-term effects from it. And we can create so much anxiety in our lives. And so one of the things that I share with couples is a very simple acronym called HALT, H-A-L-T. And HALT stands for hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. And so what we know about communication and trying to communicate better in our marriage is that, and probably with our kids too, is that anytime we are hungry, angry, lonely, or tired, we're probably not going to communicate at our best. In fact, my husband and I have a way of communicating to each other where we are on that kind of scale of HALT, right? So that if we are in a place where we're really tired at night, actually, one of the things that we do is we try not to have any huge, serious conversations, and especially not have conversations around hot topics, usually anytime after 9 to 10 o'clock at night, because we know we're going to be really tired. And when we're tired, we're less likely to communicate well. And so that's one of the things that we do to be mindful of HALT in our marriage. But this also goes for when things are really chaotic and crazy around you, like they might be right now. When there's lots of energy being devoted towards taking care of your family, taking care of your kids, maybe a job too, that you're probably a little angry about your circumstances, probably a lot angry at your circumstances, that you feel lonely and isolated from friends and community. We've definitely been experiencing that over the last 2 years because of COVID. And if you've moved to Hawaii, you don't have a lot of support network, you might be feeling that way, or especially if you feel disconnected from your family back at home, you can feel isolated and alone. But also if you're tired and you're weary, like our community is completely right now, and then of course with the stress that you have going on in your life, you're definitely going to feel more weary than you normally would, even though we probably have a huge threshold for pain as military families, right? Perhaps this makes you feel like you're kind of about to go over the edge and it's just too much. So being able to communicate with your kids, being able to communicate with your spouse and say, wow, I am really at 60% right now. Maybe I'm at 40% right now. I'm not communicating at my best. I'm sure if I'm coping at my best, and being able to communicate that with your loved ones and your family, just to be able to say, here's where I'm at. But if we're going to be able to say where we are on that HALT scale, just to be like a quick self-assessment, being self-aware of what we're feeling in our body, what we're feeling in our emotions, and maybe we're not at our best right now, and I'm doing the best that I can, that we don't forget to also be able to ask for what I need, right? Part one is being able to be self-aware of what's actually going through your mind and your body and communicate that, and maybe that you're not at your best. But part two of that is being able to say, what do you actually need? What do you need for you? What do you need help from and support from your spouse, maybe from your kids, right? So one way to say that would be able to say, I'm really tired right now. The kids have been crazy. And so what I really need right now is just like a 30-minute nap. And when you get home from work, if that's something that you can help me with, I think that would help me reset a little bit, right? That's me being able to ask from you what you can do to serve me. But perhaps it's being able to go to your kids and say, mommy or daddy, I'm really tired right now. And I just need 30 minutes of quiet. So we're going to have that alone time in our rooms and just kind of decompress. And I'm going to go take a break. And the best thing that you can do for me right now is just to give me that 30 minutes and not interrupt unless there's an emergency. But sometimes what we really need is something that only we can do for ourselves. And so I just want to encourage you guys right now that one of the things that we do have control over, going back to Viktor Frankl, one of the things we do have control over is the things that bring us joy, right? There's so many things that might be robbing you of joy right now, but to be mindful of what things actually do bring you joy, what lights you up, encourages you, brings you back to center, right? And I know that there's a lot of people out there. I'm seeing it all this last year as I traveled around and spoke to so many families. When I'd ask them that question, what brings you joy? So many people struggled with that question, and that's okay if that's you. But if it is you, think back to where before you were a parent, before you were a spouse, before you had that job. Maybe it's all the way back to high school or college when you were asking yourself, like, what do I want to do for the rest of my life, and what brings tears to my eyes? And so chances are you put away some of those things and called them childish, right? Like, I'm going to put away the childish things and become the adult, right? And I got all these responsibilities now. But I have something to just encourage you on, that perhaps that's something that you were created to love. And maybe that was not something to necessarily tuck away and put away and called it childish, right? I have so many people who have returned to music, returned to an instrument, returned to dance, returned to reading, returned to art, something that brought them joy all the way back to high school, maybe something that brought tears to your eyes, that might light you up again, and that maybe we decide to pick up that thing again. Another way that you can figure out what brings you joy is when you put your head on your pillow at the end of each night. What are those few things, maybe 3 things? What are those 3 things that you look back on your day and you go, man, I really wish I would have fit that in my day? Like, or I'm kicking myself. Like, I said I was going to exercise, or I said I was going to read today and I didn't do it. I didn't make time for it. What are those 3 things that at the end of each day you wish you would have fit in, and you let other things sabotage it, right? That's another clue to what brings you joy. And then I would just say, find those 1 to 3 things. Maybe just start with 1, right? But 1 to 3 things that you start doing it, right? You don't feel embarrassed by picking up that instrument again, or don't feel bad or selfish that you're giving yourself 30 minutes to read the book that really kind of helps you escape from the stress in your life right now. But finding those ways to fit it into your life in a way that's meaningful, and then pay attention to how you feel after you did it. Did it bring you joy? Do you have a little bit of respite? Do you feel like you got a little bit of yourself back? It is not selfish for you to take care of yourself. The last thing that I want to share with you, and I know I'm giving you a lot, the last thing I want to share with you is that Maslow's hierarchy of needs talked all about how we have like 7 levels of needs, and I'm not going to go through all of those, right? But one of the things he said is that we all strive and want to have purpose and peace and meaning in our life. However, there's these basic needs that we have to address, the basic needs in our life first, before we can ever answer those bigger questions about what is my purpose, right? And the very bottom basic need is things like food, shelter, water, sleep, those things that we need to survive. We need those needs met before we can go to the next level needs, which is like structure, routine, a feeling of emotional safety. And then the next level, which is love and belonging. Where do I plug in? Where are my friends? Where is my sense of community? And so for a lot of you right now who are having to wrestle through what happens when there is a threat to one of my basic needs, it is very normal for you to feel like you're kind of at the bottom of that last level and just kind of surviving right now. And if you're feeling like that, that is so normal, because it is a very basic need that feels threatened or is threatened. And it's important for you to attend to that, right? And it's okay if a lot of your energy is going to that basic need and figuring out how to resolve that basic need for you and for your family. So if you are kind of like circling the wagons right now and you don't have a set time for community, or maybe you're struggling because you don't know how to balance all of this and deal with Christmas and the holidays coming up, I just want to validate that a lot of that energy going towards that threat towards your basic need is normal, and that it's okay, and that it's necessary. And perhaps it's a great time for you to set boundaries and be a little bit more graceful with yourself, that this is what I'm going to have to do right now. And this is how I have to take care of my family and how I need to take care of myself during a difficult time. And that when it's over, we'll get back to all of those other things. So if you can reach out to your community, to your neighbors to help each other out, I bet that's happening. There's something about our military life that when we're in crisis, we tend to reach out to our neighbors a little bit more, and I hope you are. But if you are kind of needing to circle the wagons and just kind of be in survival mode right now, that's okay. But be sure to take care of yourself. Make little rooms. It's just like little bit of space each day to do something that brings you joy. Remember that you have so much control over your reaction, and that you too will be able to bring meaning to this, like so many other military families before us who have mentored us and shared with us how to get through times of crisis. I know you have lots of feelings, lots of emotions, lots of anger, probably lots of questions. If you need the help of a professional, to reach out to professionals that are in Hawaii that can provide telehealth to walk you through this time. You don't have to do it alone. We're thinking of you. I'm sure that this is a very difficult time, but know that we love you. We care so much about you. And I can't imagine what it's like to go through this during the holidays, but just know that we are watching and wanting to support you from afar. If there's anything that we can do to further support you or connect you to the resources that might be helpful, we would love to do that. So from my family to yours, to my tribe, just know I'm so thankful for who you are and the gritty group of people that you are. Chin up, chest out. Know that you're going to get through this as well. So I hope you have a good or better rest of your day, and take care of you.